with our architect this morning for our.
Yeah, how'd that go?
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We've had the house that like we were planning on building. Like he almost had it. It was probably like 95% done, but then with the new lot we're buying, we have to make some changes to it, and it's even better than I thought.
Is that the one with the lake?
Pond?
The pond on it?
Yeah.
So you guys were able to figure it out?
I think so, man. Which I'm happy as about.
Because the issue was kind of like the septic field, right?
So, but that was because of Lake County. So, and then, bro, in the process of us buying this and going through this, the state changed the laws.
You were talking about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So before it was the counties determined the septic regulations. There was
Now it's
legislature
statewide.
passed that says the counties no longer have that jurisdiction. It's the state's call. So before in Lake County, you had to have space for a septic system plus a move over system if that system ever failed. The state says you don't have to have that anymore.
So you don't have
there's
to
space
have
for
that
it.
emergency, basically. That.
Correct. And if the system goes out, well then, you basically just dig it all up and put a new one in. It's going to cost a lot of money, but I mean, it is what it is.
That's legit.
So we're good? No, this is episode 29.
Correct.
29. Mr. Gabe Corral. What's up, bro?
What's going on, man?
Full circle. Hey, pull that closer to you. I need like a double fist.
Double
away from you.
fister.
Don't say anything nasty. Double fist away. Yeah, that's good.
Are we
bro.
good?
We're
We
good
good?
right there. You got that. So welcome to the team, bro.
Yeah. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. We've known each other for about a decade now. Almost.
I think
yeah.
even more. It's been longer since I've been in college, which has been longer than a decade.
Has it really?
Yeah.
Because let's see.
We're coming up
Vima
on it.
I was 18. And
Yeah.
I'm 28 now, so it's been I'm about to be 29, so yeah, over a decade.
Yeah, a little bit over
Yep.
a decade. Definitely.
Man,
yeah.
that's crazy. The full circle how this all happened is pretty cool. But man, share like for basically the point of this show is us to kind of share your story, like you starting in real estate, but background, like the businesses you were in
Yeah.
before, what you've done, kind of how you grew up, and how that ties into your career and venture into the real estate business now. But starting out, you're from Cedar Lake.
Well, I'm kind of been all around.
Okay.
When I live
You're
with
from the region.
I am from the region, right? I went to. I actually grew up in Gary, so with my mom and my stepdad. In middle school, I went to Griffith for a couple years, and then in high school, I actually
Calumet Township.
correct.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I went to Griffith Middle School for a couple of years, but then I went to high school, moved in with my dad. I was like 15 or 16, moved in with my dad, and I went to high school in Cedar Lake, and that's where I graduated.
And background on so your dad, because I think this is cool. A lot of people, because we do have kind of an MMA. I don't want to say fan base, but like a lot of my friends
Right.
train and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you train, and so
yeah,
you
so
probably know quite a
share
few
on that,
people.
man. Share on that.
Yeah, I mean, so when I moved in with my dad, what was it, 15? So it was 2001, I believe. 2002. This is before really anybody even knew what jiu-jitsu was. I started doing jiu-jitsu before the first Ultimate Fighter, and prior to that, I mean, literally no one even knew what it was. I remember people at high school, like being a freshman or even 8th grade, and people would, hey, are you going to do some jiu-jitsu on me?
They think it's like karate.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's kung fu or something. It always cracked me up.
Yeah, like you're fucking Bruce Lee.
Yeah, but my dad, that's what he does. He does Corral's Martial Arts. That's our martial arts school. It's in Cherville. So, I mean, I was forced to train. Didn't like it at first, but I, quickly learned to love it. I did a lot of tournaments. This is early 2000s. And, I had a great jiu-jitsu career for a couple of years. But then high school, I had some injuries, slipped disc in my neck, slipped disc in my lower back. So it's always been, since then, it's been very tough to stay consistent.
It's a brutal sport, man.
Extremely. So, but I mean, I still miss it. I still go in. I try to teach the kids class with my dad. I help out because I got my daughters in there. Love to see them learn. I think it's imperative that most kids learn how to defend themselves.
100%.
So,
Dude, I was having this, and when you started talking about it, when you're like, I didn't like it at first, but thinking about this a lot, my wife and I have been talking, and it's like, I don't care if my kids want to play, like I played basketball, I played baseball. If they don't care to, I love golfing. If they don't care to do any of those things, I really don't care. I want them to have genuine interests. However, it's a non-negotiable to learn to defend themselves.
mm-hmm.
And that's going to be one of those things where like they may hate that. However, there will be a time that they'll be like, I am very grateful that I know this. Like,
Definitely.
and that comes with time. Like early on, if my dad made me do it, and who knows, they may love it from an early age, which I hope and pray they do. But like, that's all, especially for our daughters, right? Because you got two girls.
Especially for your daughters, yeah.
Yeah, you got two girls. My daughter's 2.5. My son was just born, but you got boy on the way.
My boy on the way.
Heck yeah. So like
soon.
that. I mean, it's a. I feel like it's a non-negotiable almost, especially growing up in it. I mean, is that kind of like your dad was like, hey, no matter what, you're coming. Is that how it was?
Yeah. I mean, well, he taught class. He wasn't going to leave me at home alone.
Yeah.
He's like, you're coming. All right, so you have to.
It's better to be humbled in training.
Oh, 100%.
Than on the street.
You will be humbled. Jiu-jitsu will humble you very fast.
Every single day.
Every time.
Talk about that, man, because if you look at the top MMA schools and in Northwest Indiana, I mean, Corral's is there. Like, and so you grew up with that, your dad being that. How has jiu-jitsu, MMA, being a part of that? Because it's like it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a lifestyle. Like when I started training, I was like, it's all I thought about. Mm-hmm. You know, and still to this day, like
that jiu-jitsu bug,
dude, it's no joke. It just stays with you, especially when teaching, because it's like after hours. So like you go to school, you leave, and then like, all right, you're going with dad to the gym. Yep. So talk about like how did being around MMA and jiu-jitsu, how did that help your mindset and kind of like the success you've had in business and life today? Has that had an impact on you, and if so, how?
I would definitely say yes. I mean, it just gives you that confidence, right? From a young age, I mean, being 16 years old and being able to choke out full-grown men, you know, some of these guys were all police officers that, you know, would come in their uniform, go get dressed, come out on the mat, and then I'd choke them out. It just, it really, it gives you that confidence to know that you can handle yourself, and it kind of just helps you get along and talk to people. I don't know, it just commands a sense of respect, and you guys just have a very good relationship with the people coming in, and, you know, being 15 or 16 and having, you know, police officers or doctors and lawyers where they give you a certain kind of respect that they probably wouldn't give to other 16-year-olds. So you learn to have good relationships with people. It's definitely steered me in the right way, I would say. Kind of kept me out of trouble, definitely, because I was training rather than being in trouble. And then when I was done with training, I didn't even want to go out because I was tired. Right? So
it's
definitely kept out of trouble. 100%.
Hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like, and I was playing multiple sports in high school, basketball and baseball, 7-8 hours a day, work out in the middle of the day too, because we had to be in P-Fit, so we had to do Olympic weightlifting. So I'm Olympic weightlifting, basketball practice, conditioning, baseball after. I'll do 20 minutes of rolling. Yeah. And I am significantly more tired and sore from 20 minutes of jiu-jitsu than 4 or 5 hours of basketball and baseball. And that's not a joke.
And I know exactly what you mean. It's different when someone's trying to literally choke you out.
Yep.
And you're trying not to get choked out. Yeah. It wears you out fast. But definitely, it definitely has played a huge role in my life in terms of confidence, you know, just being able to talk to people. But I would say, I mean, honestly, confidence is huge.
Yeah.
Especially when you're young, learning how to talk to people, not being shy.
Yeah.
You know.
How about from your dad? Because, I mean, your dad, I've never met your dad, but I'm assuming to build what he's built and to go from full-time steel mill and then eventually transition, right, to being a business owner and building some of what he's done now. I mean, he's had guys that have gone through his gym that are in the UFC, and some of the, you know, some really well-known names have come through Corrals, right? Yeah. So what did you learn from your dad from a mindset perspective that has gotten you to this point? Because, you know, people just see you, I mean, if you're watching this show and they're meeting you for the first time, they're like, oh, it's a new agent on the Nickla Group. But you have a extensive background of success in everything that you've done. So how is that, people don't know that, now they do. So how has that played a role from learning from your dad? Was your dad a big role in that and teaching mindset and success and where you're at now?
I mean, definitely. He's always been an entrepreneur. He worked at the steel mill, but early on he was promoting, he had the jiu-jitsu school part-time, saw a lot of people come in, but he was also promoting like a lot of MMA fights in the area. They used to have the Ironheart Crown, which was in the Hammond Civic Center. I mean, I can't tell you how many fighters I've seen come through there who are now in the UFC or were in the UFC. Stephen Bonner used to fight for him quite often.
Because he's from Munster.
Yeah, he's from Munster.
R.I.P. Yeah. We did Mitch and I did something on him because I had no idea he was from Munster, dude.
Yeah, he's from Munster.
He's arguably the greatest fight ever with Forrest Griffin in UFC history.
Classic.
Is Stephen Bonner, and that's what like put the UFC on the map. Was
the
that
UFC
fight.
one final or what was the first show they had, the Ultimate Fighter.
Yep.
Season 1, yeah.
That fight,
amazing.
Literally still to this day, like that, they say that was like what kickstarted the UFC.
That was like the turnaround. It was like the breaking point from them going out of business to turning it around.
And that dude trained with your dad?
He didn't train with my dad, but he fought in some of the fights that my dad promoted, which was the Ironheart Crown. And I've saw, like I said, Clay Guida come through.
Yeah.
Thiago Alves. There was another guy.
Crazy names.
Oh, I forgot what his name. I can't think of him. He's been in the UFC a bunch. Shoney Carter. I mean, there's just tons of names. I mean, these are all older names. Because, like I said, this was what, early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw a bunch of people come through there, and I've learned a lot. You know, I used to help him promote his fights. I remember walking around on this square specifically, putting up posters. Hey, can I put up posters in your window for my dad's fights? He would pay me, you know. I forgot what it was, but
That's
I was
cool.
16, driving around, putting up posters in people's businesses, helping them with the fights, setup. I mean, I did it all. So I learned a lot about working on your dreams after work.
Yeah.
You know, he was always doing that, made it full time. And he just always kept going. Never really saw him complain or just always kept going. And I guess that I picked up on that. You know, you're going to have to do more than just work that 9 to 5 if you want to have more in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I've definitely picked up on that.
Heck yeah. That kind of leads into when we met, which was during VIMA times,
Mm-hmm.
which VIMA network marketing, a lot of people have gotten into the network marketing industry. There's a lot of negative to be said about it. There's also a lot of positive to be said about it. I think we are on that positive side of it, even though we're not in
100%.
that industry, but there's so many things that came from it. Did you meet your wife through VIMA?
No,
Because I met my wife through VIMA.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. I met my wife through, we met in high school.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's how I met her was through VIMA, and you guys were together at the time. So
Yeah,
I didn't
we
know
were.
if that,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
that,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But talk about like leading. Okay. So you learned a lot from your dad. Like you just keep going. If you have a dream, you can't do what everyone else is doing. There's more after 9 to 5, right?
Of course.
So from that point, when you were introduced to the network marketing industry, that's when we met, you know, and kind of talk about what that part of your life did for you as far as mindset, your experience in business. How did that impact you to this point today?
Well, I'm sure as you know, because I know it's impacted your life. It definitely has impacted my life, completely changed the route that I was going in life, because I was a senior in college when it came about. I was working on my chemistry degree, which, you know, I graduated with the chemistry degree, and I do absolutely nothing in chemistry. And I remember I was interning in a lab in a hospital. It was the most boring thing in the world. Yeah, I majored in chemistry.
Knowing you, thinking about like you're majoring in chemistry, like what?
Yeah, I scraped through. You know, wasn't the best GPA,
No,
but it was good. It was good
I'm not
enough
talking
to make
about
it.
knowledge. I'm just talking about like you being like, yeah, I'm gonna get a chemistry degree. Like,
You know what came about it? I literally had no idea what I wanted to do. I'm like, you know what, chemistry kind of sounds hard, so I'm just gonna do that.
No way.
I figured I had a lot of options with chemistry. You know?
Okay.
Like,
I didn't know
most
that.
people are like, you did chemistry, you must be smart. So
Yeah.
You know, I totally skimmed by. We made it. But no, I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was working in a lab in a hospital, and it was just the most boring thing I have ever done in my life. It was the worst 2 weeks, because I only interned for 2 weeks before I like messed up my ankle and had to stop working. But awful. VIMA came along. It's much more exciting.
Yeah.
Talking to people and seeing the possibilities and seeing some people who are already doing things, you know, making a decent amount of cash. And I'm always been the person, if he can do it, I can do it. There's no reason I can't. 100%. And so that's literally what got me going. And I just love the whole aspect. And the biggest thing, though, it taught me was like the personal development.
Yes.
Didn't really know what personal development was before. I didn't know who Robert Kiyosaki or Bob Proctor or you know, some of these big names. I didn't know them. And, you know, ever since then, I find myself listening to them a lot. I've read quite a few books, and it's completely and drastically changed my mindset on what is success and how you get there, and constantly developing yourself to be a better person, you know, to bring more market to the value place, essentially. That it'll work out for you. And that's what happened, right? I went straight from college, actually repoed cars for about a month.
Dang.
Directly out of college in the south side of Chicago.
Bro, you would be the last person I want showing up repoing my car.
Oh, dude, no.
Dude,
South Chicago's no fun. All I did was drive the cars, and I'd call the tow truck driver and say, hey, I found the car, come get it. And I'd be like hiding in the back, because it was scary, dude.
Yeah, that's sketchy.
It was scary. And it was like the day my daughter was born, I had interviews at a third-party logistics company in Chicago. One of my friends from my frat house, because I was in a frat in college, he's one of my Jewish buddies, and I always would call him and ask him for advice. Hey, where are you working at? What are you doing? What are you investing in? Always. He's like, hey, I just got this really cool job. I'm actually going to be leaving soon, but it would be an awesome fit for you. You literally just talk to truck drivers, sell them freight, make a lot of money. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, man, there's some guy from like Europe, can't even speak English. He's making like $250K a year. And I'm like, what? Like, I can do that.
If
dude.
he can do it,
If he can do it, I can do it. And that's literally what got me in there.
And you were there. So was that C.H. Robinson?
C.H. Robinson,
Yep.
yeah.
And you were there for how long?
8 years.
Okay. And so that transitions us to now. So you started in that line of work, and you're literally moving freight.
Correct.
Yeah.
Moving freight.
Moving freight. And you moved a lot of freight.
Moved a lot of freight.
A lot of freight.
A lot of freight. Correct.
Even more than the dude who couldn't speak English. You were moving a lot more freight than that cat.
You know what? He was still there. He was still there, and I talked to him a lot, actually. And he kept getting bigger, but I was there with him.
And so on a day-to-day basis there, you're communicating with companies or distributors who have products or whatever it might be, and they need to move that from one place to the next. So you would connect the truck drivers with whoever needed product moved, and there was a spread there. Truck driver gets paid for moving something. Company moves whatever they need moved, and you get paid.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there was two aspects of C.H. Robinson. I worked directly with the companies who own the semi-trucks. There was another half of C.H. Robinson, like my counterpart, who worked directly with the customers.
Got it.
You know, so all the big companies that you can think of America, we probably have worked with and moved their freight, you know.
Yep. And you were doing that for 8 years and crushed that line of work, and then one day they changed the whole industry.
There are quite a few things in the industry changed. I mean, obviously we were the biggest in the industry, but we had competitors that were behind us, and they did similar things with the pay structure. But the writing was on the wall. You know, for the previous couple of years, you kept on hearing, hey, this is going to be changed. This is going to be changed. Now you have new metrics to look up to. They're going to cut your money if you don't hit. So constantly things were adding up. I'm like, okay, that's not fun. Okay, that sucks. Eventually there came a point where they just completely changed the whole compensation structure from being commission, which was an unlimited cap. If you wanted to work 24 hours a day and rake up as much business
which
as you can.
Which freight is moving 24 hours a day.
It's
right?
It's okay. It is. It definitely is. But it's hard. A lot of people aren't working past 6.
Okay. Got it.
There might be one person who controls 50 trucks after 5 p.m. They're like, I'm not answering your call.
Yeah. Got
so it depends. You could set up your business for the next day. Maybe you're finding loads for your accounts the next day because you already know what they want.
But just like what Vima was, the mindset that we had, which was if they can do it, I can do it. But also 100%. There's no limit to what I am capable of. That's something that, like, for guys like us, from a mindset perspective, like, you don't want someone telling you what you can or cannot achieve, accomplish, earn.
Right, exactly.
That's why you like that business. Exactly. And then overnight, not just C.H. Robinson, but all of these
quite a few companies
just changed the whole way that they pay. Yeah, it's almost like they all met overnight and was like, "Hey, we are going to do this," and the industry changed overnight, and all of a sudden they took guys who had the earning potential like you and just completely cut it.
Yeah, the people who were doing the best, I mean, they definitely took the hardest hit.
Yep.
And so the writing was on the wall. I could have stuck around. Things were easy. I had a business that was sustainable, it was built. I literally could have. Honestly, I could have really done very minimal work, but what was the point? Yeah. I couldn't do more to achieve more, so I just felt like, and that's just how I am. I don't like to be somewhere where there's a ceiling. Yep. And then you're just at that ceiling, and there's nothing more you can do, and I guess the only other thing that I liked besides the money, because after so long of making money, you got to find other things that are driving you. And honestly, and it was funny because when I first started, I used to care more about the money, like, oh, how much am I going to make? But it came a point where it's like, it doesn't matter. And what you really tried to do was just help other people. Like, you got satisfaction from making sure that other people got what they needed. Like, oh my God, thank you. I had trucks stranded, didn't know what to do. Now I can go home. Thank you. I used to love that, right? People would call you and ask you for favors and you could do it. That's what I liked, because it got to the point where it's like, the money's there, it's just whatever, it's the same thing, but I really loved helping people. So I guess, the whole structure of the way we worked once the payment changed, I no longer had that salesy feel because it's just, everything changed and it was just no longer the same feel. I could still help people, but not as much as I could prior because there were so many more restrictions and I felt like our handcuffs were on, and so more rules and just less leeway,
There's a couple things, a couple places I want to go with that. First off, it is beyond true that if you're somebody that actually is sincere and gives a shit about people, there comes a point where when we first met each other, we couldn't understand what we're talking about right now, because all we thought about was, how do we get the money?
Right.
That was all that we thought about. 100%. How do we get to the point where we can make money? But there really does come a point where you're like, what does this doesn't. I had about a 3-year period of time where I was working, but I was like, what am I even do? Why am I doing this anymore? Why am I doing this anymore? Like the money gets to a point where it is not, unless you're somebody that really gives a lot of weight to what people think about you.
Yeah.
By what you have, what you drive, what you wear, all of that, which we live in a place where I feel like, the way that we were raised, the way my parents raised me, that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? There's parts of the world and just people in general that they care so much about what other people think that they have to maintain this image, right? Keeping up with the Joneses, etc. But there comes a time where once you get to the point where my family's fed, my shelter and my house is good, air conditioning's on, things are on, like I'm financially independent, I'm good. You have to find other reasons why you're doing what you're doing. And when you don't have money, there's someone listening to this and they're like, speak for yourself, bro. I get it, because I've been
100%.
there. I was there for years.
100%.
But you get to a point where you're like, no, this isn't it anymore. This doesn't drive me anymore. And you're like, then you get to the point where you can truly operate at the best of who you are, which is, hey, if I don't move this truck for you, if I don't move this freight for you, my family's okay. I'm doing this because of there's something greater in it. And we talk about this on our team a lot. You've heard me only in the last few months probably talk about this. But we just did a training on this yesterday. Unless your financial house is in order, I don't think you can help take care of someone else's physical house.
Very true.
Because in your mind, you're thinking, well, what's in it for me?
Right.
So that is one thing I think, man, that is beautiful, because now you're coming into the industry of real estate where that is, in my opinion, the hardest thing to get through for a real estate agent is they've got commission breath.
Yeah.
You don't have you left your job. You're like, I don't need that, because you're good, and now you can focus on building your business. Whether a deal closes or not, you're in this for the mindset of what is best for this person.
Of course.
So I want to make that like blatantly clear that like anybody that has the opportunity to work with you knows you're not in a position where you're like, I need this deal to close, or I can't feed my family.
Absolutely,
No.
yeah.
You were disciplined, smart, committed with finances. You were able to leave your job. And now you can focus on giving that experience the best value to a client, an investor, whoever it is that you're working for. So you've already passed what's the hardest part about this business, which is the commission breath and what's in it for me. And so I think it's a beautiful place for you to be. And I just wanted to put that out there, because for someone who hasn't got to that point, first off, you're going to get to that point. And second off, once you do, it's pure freedom, because you're like, I'm doing this because I enjoy it and because I want to.
Yeah, things become much more enjoyable at that point, right? I mean, I just remember having days at work where, when I first started, because it showed everybody, you could look up anybody on that sales floor, how much money they were making for that day, for the month, for the year, whatever. Everything was public. I was very competitive, always looking at my own money. How am I? Became a certain point, I just stopped looking, and it just didn't matter. I found true happiness just helping people. That was it, making sure they were good. And everybody was good. I knew that if I helped enough people and enough people said thank you, I would just by default get what I needed. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what was happening.
And that's stuff we learned from personal development, right?
Yes,
like that
100%.
That whole, yeah.
But like I said, it took time. When I first started, I was driving a minivan, driving an hour to Chicago in 96-degree heat with no AC, man.
Yeah, man.
I remember just sweating like, man, we're going to get there. And eventually you get there, and then things start to change.
Yep.
Your whole mindset starts to change. It's not about you. It's just about helping other people. Once you get that mindset, things just start falling in place.
100%.
So much easier. You're not forcing it. It just happens.
Yes.
And so,
yes.
Yeah.
And the way that I always say it in real estate is you have to take your emotion on what's in it for you completely out of the transaction. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to do when in your mind you're like, well, I have rent, or I have a mortgage payment, or I have this to get this month if this doesn't close.
Right.
It's really hard to do that
100%.
Unless you're at that point.
That stress in your head is definitely going to not bring out the best in you.
Right. Are you going to be able to tell a client, hey, I don't think you should buy this house?
Oh, 100%.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
hey, you may want to walk away from this deal.
Correct.
And that's probably best for them.
Right. I'm
you
going to be
know?
the first person to say, hey, yeah, this
This house
probably
sucks.
isn't good for you.
Yes,
You know?
yeah.
It's not about me.
Yep.
Well, eventually it'll happen, but you got to
Right.
make sure they're happy.
Yeah, based on you saying the fact that you don't want to, you're not handy and you don't want to completely flip a house and build a new foundation, you may not want to buy this place.
Right, yeah.
You know? And so that is in the best interest of the client.
Of course.
Awesome. Why did you pick real estate?
I've always been interested in real estate. I mean, even when I started this job or my previous job 8 years ago, I remember calling you just talking about real estate and talking about investing. I mean, I've read through the years countless books, watched countless podcasts and YouTube videos. I've always been interested. I always knew that I would eventually start investing in real estate from the money I was making at my job. And I guess, and that's still the plan. I still plan on, eventually retiring off of investments, having passive income from real estate. But now I need a way to make active income while I'm doing that. And my previous job, obviously, I was just not happy there no more. Could I have done it and I still could have made six figures? Yes, but I just wasn't happy. And so I would rather be happy, even if it meant making less money, than not being, I'd rather be happy than not being happy. So I decided to make this my active income. And at the end of the day, it's only going to make me better at real estate. If my plan is to invest in real estate to retire, why not become an expert in real estate? Become an expert in what you want to invest in.
Yep.
So that's definitely was on the mind. And, I've known you obviously forever, and I've always seen what you're doing here in Crown Point, and you helped me buy my house. And, like you always say, you've always been on top of mind because I'm always seeing your stuff and I've always seen you crushing it. So I honestly, me and you, I would say we're like on the same wavelength.
100%.
We have a very similar mindset. I mean, and we're similar in many ways. So, like attracts like, and I would say that's what brought me here.
That's why when you called me, dude, I was so stoked.
Yeah.
Like I was beyond excited. I was like, this works. This fits, man.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
I was happy. I was happy that you were available to bring someone else on, and I don't even know. I really didn't even have a second option. That didn't cross my mind. I'm more of those people like, hey, this is what we're going to do and this is what's going to happen.
Decisive.
Right.
Yeah.
Burn your bridges, keep going forward, or I should say burn your boats. Yeah. Burn your boats. But yeah, that's what brought me here.
And when you called me, we kind of have a process. Like you got to see it yesterday. Like we had our process for people coming on our team is not. If we just let everyone on our team, we'd have over 100 agents. Our process,
sure. Yeah.
And we don't recruit. There's nothing out there. It's just people contacting us, which is a testimony to Noah marketing us and branding us and everything that we've done. But we had someone in yesterday, right? That process, it's like a 3-4 step process. They got to meet with me. They have to meet with our broker owners. They have to meet the team. The team has to say yes. When you called me, Noah, do you remember this? I told the team, I said, hey, we have a guy coming and no one really has a say. Like it was like it wasn't a test. Like, like yesterday that girl who was here, like it kind of is a test. Like we need to make sure that fits the family culture. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think she's passed. I think she fits, but at the same time with you, I was like, hey, you guys don't have a say, like, and I love y'all. And that's the only time I've ever done that. Mitch was kind of like that too.
I remember you sent
Mitch was kind of like that too.
Everyone,
yeah.
And Gabe was in that email, and I never met Gabe before that.
Yep.
And I looked at who's,
yep.
hell is Gabe?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's the newest guy.
Yeah.
But and going off of what you're saying too, because I want to backtrack a little bit. One of the main reasons I got into real estate was investing in it, right? Because just all the same stuff we were listening to, and I thought exactly that. At 19 years old, I was like, if I had mentors talking about sales is the number one skill you can have.
Yeah.
So learn how to sell.
I agree.
Because you're learning how to deal with people, right? You're learning how to, and the idea of being a salesperson scared the crap out of me. Because I'm like, well, salespeople are slimy. Salespeople are this, right? But I had way too many people that I looked up to and wanted to learn from and be like, that were like, listen, the number one skill you could have is being a salesperson. So I thought, okay, I don't have any money to buy real estate, and I ain't getting any from my parents. I ain't getting any from anywhere. So how am I going to get active income? I'll sell real estate, learn about the business in order to buy it and invest in it. One of the main reasons, though, why I thought selling and why did I pick selling real estate is because I had heard from a number of different people who were in the sales industry, and you experienced this firsthand, which was if you're a good salesperson in certain type of industries, and you become better, great salespeople in a lot of industries get basically like they get diminished in opportunities. So once you get better, they say, well, we're going to change your territory. We need you to go to the crappier territory. Well, your quota is higher now for you to hit those bonuses because So what happens is your earning potential changes because the company or the industry dictates that.
Correct.
So although you may be in sales, you don't have full control over it.
Right.
And when I looked at real estate, I'm like, there's nothing that can stop that. For the people like me that I'm like, I don't want a ceiling, right? There's nothing that got in the way of that because there's no one who determines that, right? It was just between me and me.
Right.
And you can't change my territory. I can change my territory if I want to.
Right.
I can do it, right? So the negative to that, though, is, no health insurance, no car insurance, no paid for car, pay your own tax. All that stuff is on you. And by the way, if you don't show up, you ain't getting nothing. A lot of sales places, you may have a salary, and then you get bonuses, and those bonuses are the big. Here, it's like you fend for yourself. That is a risk I'm willing to take for the back end, knowing that nobody has the ability to take away from me what it is I want to create. So now you're in that position, and you experienced it firsthand, where overnight someone can just change your comp plan, and you're done. So a lot of sales positions are in industries in the sales industry, depending on where you're at, in that it can change overnight. So now you're in a spot where you're like, I've always known I wanted to invest in real estate, and I don't want this proverbial glass ceiling. It's gone. And now you can do both, but you've also gotten to a point where, because of your past career, you're not, you're not frantic needing deals. You're in a perfect position with your mindset and your background now. And now, I mean, you're early 30s, right?
Correct. Yeah.
3 kids, about to be
two, and one's cooking.
Born on the way. So that being the case, man, I mean, perfect place for you to be, because the average real estate agent's 54, right? Yeah. So when you put that in context, like most people, it's a second career for. Yeah, it's a second career. People get into real estate when they're in their 40s because they were at their job for the last 15, 18 years, and they're like, I'm sick and tired of this. Right. So, I mean, from that perspective, 10 years from now, you're early 40s. And 10 years from now, what's going to happen in the next 10 years with your career, investing career, and everything? So I'm very happy to have you here, bro.
Yeah, I'm happy to be
Thanks
here.
for calling.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you'd want to share for the 2 people who listen to us? Is there anything you'd want to share with them about, like, just your mindset, your goals? Like, what is your vision with real estate as an agent, and just in general?
I mean, definitely. I just want to. Obviously, I know if I help enough people, people are going to remember me. People are going to know who I am. Eventually it's going to take a little time, but when people talk about real estate in Northwest Indiana, I would like my name to come up, and that's going to take a lot of grinding. It's going to take a lot of shaking hands and take a lot of talking to people. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take years, but I'm ready to do that. I'm willing. There's really no other option. I'm not really even giving myself another option to do something else, because why? I'm not giving myself the option to pull out if things get hard, or I'm not getting it, whatever it is. This is what it's gonna be, and this is what we're gonna make happen. I would say that my previous job, I learned a lot of problem solving, because there would be issues that would be dropped in your lap, and there was no one to ask how to help or what to do, and you just had to figure it out. And so I think I'm bringing that to the table. And on top of, I would say probably I'm not okay. I am new to being an agent, but I would say negotiating skills probably take longer to develop. And because I've been negotiating so hard for the past 8 years, that is one thing that I've kind of learned, the very small nuances in negotiating. And so I'm not the best in the world, but I would say that I'm probably better than the average agent.
I would agree
not
with
even
that.
Being an agent,
and
I believe that's a big skill to learn in real estate.
It took me a long time just to have the balls to negotiate, and to learn the art of that. You know what I mean? And before, it was just kind of like, oh, I don't want this deal to fall through, but learning that, man, you're 100% right. I would say it took me a good 5 years to get comfortable with certain types of negotiations.
And a lot of times when you're negotiating, as an agent, you already have, you've seen houses, you have leads, you guys are pretty much ready to make that next step, which is almost like, once you get there, you've done a lot of stuff up to that point, right? And so once you're getting there, it's like you're almost to the finish line. You're only negotiating so much, but it was like at the previous job, all day for 8 hours, I am messaging people to say, hey, can I please spend more money on your on your freight to give to my accounts, because they need more money. They can't do that job for that rate. And so literally just doing that over and over, and talking to people who maybe the previous day you guys were fighting and you guys don't like each other. So you got to know what angle to come at and how to ask them. And it's very subtle, but that was one. And I still love doing that. I love talking to people and coming up with to where both parties are winning, because it can always be framed that way.
Thank you.
So,
Well, sweet, man. Anything else?
and that's it.
This is a good talk. Good
Yeah,
talk.
definitely.
Yeah, we'll, I mean, you'll definitely be on the pod more often, and we'll start doing more like normal shows with different stuff going on in the region. We'll start doing all that. But 29th episode, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. Any likes, subscribes, shares, anything like that helps us big time. And if you got any stories or any potential guests that you guys think would be important to talk about here in the region, in Northwest Indiana, anyone you think would be cool to be on the show, or any new developments, anything's going on, please feel free to share those with us. We always want to cover anything that we feel is necessary to talk about. So thank you guys for watching. Have a good day.